The Tuesday evening started like any other in 12 years of marriage. I was under the kitchen sink, wrestling with a stubborn pipe that had been dripping for weeks, when the knock came. Not the gentle tap of a neighbor or the familiar rhythm of a delivery driver. This was the authoritative pound that makes your blood run cold. "Jack Mallory!" The officer's badge caught the porch light as I opened the door. Behind him stood his partner, both wearing the kind of serious expressions that meant someone's world was about to collapse. "That's me," I said, wiping grease from my hands with a dish towel. "What's this about? We need to ask you about an assault that occurred earlier tonight. Your wife is involved." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Assault? What assault? There must be some mistake. Officer Barnes, I could see his nameplate now, shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Mallory, we have to inform you that your wife, Elise Mallory, attacked a man during a domestic dispute at an apartment complex on Pine Street. The victim's name is Marcus Hunt." Marcus Hunt. I'd never heard that name in my life. "I'm sorry, but that's impossible," I said, my voice sounding strange even to myself. "Elise was at book club tonight. She goes every Tuesday, has for 3 years. The officers exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. "Sir," Barnes continued gently, "your wife wasn't at any book club. She was at Marcus Hunt's apartment. According to multiple witnesses and Mr. Hunt's statement, they've been in a relationship for several months. Tonight they had an argument that escalated when he attempted to end things. Your wife struck him with a table lamp, causing a laceration that required medical attention." The world tilted. I gripped the doorframe, my 12 years of marriage suddenly feeling like a house of cards in a hurricane. "Are you saying my wife was cheating on me?" The words came out as barely a whisper. "We're sorry you're finding out this way," the second officer said. "We understand this is shocking news." Shocking didn't begin to cover it. I thought about Elise leaving 3 hours ago, kissing my cheek, saying she'd be home by 10. I thought about our kids upstairs, 8-year-old Emma and 10-year-old Dylan, doing homework and completely oblivious that their mother had just destroyed our family. "Where is she now?" I managed to ask. "She fled the scene before we arrived," Barnes explained. "Mr. Hunt was taken to the hospital. We have a warrant for your wife's arrest for assault and battery." I stared at these two men who had just delivered the news that my life was a lie. "So you're telling me that not only has my wife been cheating on me for months, but she assaulted her lover when he tried to dump her?" "That appears to be the situation, yes, sir." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Almost. Instead, I felt something cold and hard settling in my chest. Something that felt like the beginning of a plan. "Thank you for letting me know," I said, my voice steadier now. "I appreciate you coming here instead of me finding out some other way." After they left, I sat in my living room, staring at the family photos on the mantel. Elise smiling at our wedding. Elise holding newborn Emma. Elise at last year's Christmas morning, laughing as Dylan opened presents. All lies. My phone buzzed. Elise's number. "They told me about Marcus," I said without preamble, my voice cold as winter. Silence. Then sobbing. "Jack, I can explain. You assaulted him. He was breaking up with me. I lost control. I was so upset about losing." She stopped, realizing what she'd just admitted. "You were upset about losing your affair partner," I finished for her. "Where are you now?" "At a hotel. If Marcus presses charges, I could be arrested. I'm scared, Jack. I don't know what to do." I hung up. Then I called my sister Lydia, who worked as a paralegal downtown. "Jack? It's late. What's wrong?" "I need a divorce lawyer, the best one you know, and I need them first thing tomorrow morning." "What happened?" "Elise has been cheating on me for months. Tonight she got arrested for assaulting her boyfriend when he tried to break up with her." The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "Holy shit, Jack. Are you serious?" "Dead serious. Can you help me?" "I'll make some calls tonight. We'll bury her, Jack. Adultery and assault. She won't get a dime." After I hung up with Lydia, I called Elise's parents. They deserved to know what their daughter had done. "Richard, it's Jack. I'm sorry to call so late, but I thought you should know. Elise has been having an affair for months. Tonight she was arrested for assault when she attacked her boyfriend with a lamp." The conversation that followed was painful but necessary. Richard and Margaret had always been good to me, and watching their world crumble as they processed their daughter's actions was almost as heartbreaking as my own situation. By morning, Elise was in jail. She called, crying, begging me to bail her out. "Can you help me? Please, Jack, I made a mistake." "You assaulted someone," I said simply. Figure it out yourself. I hung up and blocked her number. That's when I saw Marcus Hunt's social media post. Some women are crazy. Got assaulted last night by a psycho who couldn't handle rejection. Stay safe out there, fellas. He hadn't named Elise, but it didn't matter. Within hours, mutual friends had connected the dots. The comments section was brutal. Everyone knew. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about justice. This was about making sure everyone who had helped destroy my family faced consequences. I picked up my phone and called Marcus Hunt directly. Marcus agreed to meet me at Brewster's coffee shop on Main Street, probably thinking he could manipulate the situation to his advantage. I arrived first, choosing a table in the back corner where we could talk privately, but still be seen by the dozen or so morning customers. He walked in looking exactly like I'd expected. Expensive suit, perfectly styled hair. The kind of guy who probably practiced his smile in the mirror. When he spotted me, his confident expression faltered slightly. "Jack?" He approached cautiously, like I might explode. "Thanks for agreeing to meet. I think we should talk about this situation." "Sit down, Marcus." I kept my voice level, professional. "We definitely need to talk." He settled into the chair across from me, fidgeting with his coffee cup. "Look, I want you to know that I never intended for things to go this far. Elise told me you two were separated." "Stop." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo from 2 weeks ago. Elise and me at Emma's school play, her wedding ring clearly visible as she applauded. "Does this look like we were separated?" His face went pale. "She said you were just keeping up appearances for the kids." I scrolled to another photo, Elise and me at dinner 3 weeks ago, holding hands across the table. Another one from last month. The whole family at Dylan's baseball game, Elise's arm around my waist. "Here's what really happened, Marcus. My wife pursued a relationship with you while lying about her marital status. You chose to believe her because it was convenient. You helped destroy my children's home. I didn't know. You knew she was married. You knew she had kids. You just didn't care." I leaned forward. "Do you know what alienation of affection means, Marcus?" The color drained completely from his face. "What? It's a legal term. In this state, I can sue you for knowingly interfering with my marriage. I can take everything you own." You can't be serious." I pulled out a folder Lydia had prepared for me. "Lawsuit papers, already drafted. All I have to do is file them." I slid the documents across the table. "Your real estate license, your condo, your BMW, your savings account, all of it becomes fair game." Marcus stared at the papers like they might bite him. "What do you want?" "I want you to testify in my divorce proceedings. I want you to tell the judge exactly how Elise pursued you, how she lied about our marriage, and how she manipulated you into this affair. And if I do that, I'll consider not destroying your life." He was quiet for a long moment, probably calculating whether he could fight me in court. Smart Money said no. He'd been sleeping with a married woman for months, and we had evidence. "Fine," he said finally. "I'll testify." "Good choice." I stood up, leaving the lawsuit papers on the table. "Oh, and Marcus, you might want to stay off social media for a while. That post about crazy women isn't playing well with the local crowd." Logad Albistem left him sitting there, staring at the legal documents that could ruin him. Outside, I called my lawyer to schedule the divorce proceedings. But Marcus Hunt wasn't my only target. Elise had friends who'd helped cover for her affair, who'd lied to me for months about those Tuesday night book clubs. They were about to learn that loyalty to a cheating wife came with consequences. That evening, I drove to the Rusty Anchor, the local bar where Elise's friend Chelsea worked as a bartender. The place was packed with the usual after-work crowd, perfect for what I had planned. Chelsea was behind the bar, laughing with customers, completely unaware that her world was about to change. I waited until there was a lull in the crowd, then approached. "Hey, Chelsea, can we talk?" "Hey, Hufchestein." She looked up, and I saw the moment recognition hit her. The guilt was written all over her face. "Jack, I heard about... I'm so sorry about everything with Elise." "Are you?" "Because I'm wondering how sorry you can be when you've been covering for her affair for months." The conversations around us started to quiet down. Other customers were listening now. "I don't know what you mean," Chelsea said, but her voice was shaking. "The book club that meets every Tuesday night. The one that doesn't exist? The one you told me about when I called looking for my wife 3 weeks ago." I kept my voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "You told me she was at your house discussing Pride and Prejudice. Remember that?" Chelsea's face was bright red now. Several customers had stopped their conversations entirely. "You helped my wife cheat on me for months," I continued. "You lied to my face. You helped destroy my children's home. Jack, please. No. I think everyone here should know what kind of person you really are. You're the kind of friend who helps married women sneak around behind their husbands' backs. You're the kind of person who looks someone in the eye and lies to protect an affair. And the bar was dead silent now. Chelsea was crying, and I felt a surge of satisfaction. Enjoy your reputation, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then I walked out. By the next morning, the story would be all over town. Chelsea's role in the affair would be common knowledge, and her credibility would be shot. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning brought an unexpected gift. Marcus, apparently panicked by our coffee shop conversation, had posted another update. Crazy situation getting worse. Some people can't handle the truth about their failed marriages. Might need to get lawyers involved. The idiot was threatening me publicly, and I screenshot the post and sent it to my lawyer, then crafted my own response. I didn't tag Marcus or mention him by name. I didn't need to. Everyone already knew. It's amazing how people try to rewrite history when they get caught destroying families. Some folks think expensive suits and fancy cars make them untouchable. They're about to learn otherwise. Within an hour, the post had 37 likes and 12 comments, all supporting me. The town had chosen sides, and Marcus was losing badly. But the real game changer came that afternoon when my neighbor, Mrs. Fenn, knocked on my door. She was 73 years old and had lived on Willow Street longer than anyone else. She also had the best gossip network in town. Jack, dear, I heard about what happened with Elise. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mrs. Fenn. I appreciate that. I wanted you to know, I've been seeing that man's car in your driveway when you weren't home, the fancy BMW. I wrote down the license plate number because it seemed suspicious. She handed me a piece of paper with Marcus's plate number and dates going back 3 months. Detailed records of when he'd been at my house, in my bed, probably with my wife. You're a lifesaver, Mrs. Fenn. There's something else, she said, lowering her voice. I overheard Elise on the phone yesterday morning. She was talking to someone about making you look bad in court. Something about bruises and taking pictures. My blood ran cold. She's planning to claim I abused her? That's what it sounded like. She was crying, saying she needed to make herself look like the victim. After Mrs. Fenn left, I called Lydia immediately. She's going to try to frame you, Lydia said after I explained. Classic move for someone caught cheating. Make the husband look like the bad guy. Can she get away with it? Not if we're prepared. I'm going to call in some favors. We need to document everything. Your whereabouts, witnesses who can vouch for your character, anything that proves you never laid a hand on her. That evening, I got a call from Tommy Rodriguez, my foreman at the construction company. Tommy was 6'4", built like a brick wall, and had been my best friend since high school. Boss, I heard what happened. What do you need? I need character witnesses for court, and I might need some help with a project. What kind of project? I told him about Marcus's BMW, how it had been parked in my driveway while he was sleeping with my wife, how seeing that car every day was a constant reminder of betrayal. Say no more, Tommy said. I know some guys who specialize in automotive modifications. Nothing illegal, I warned. Just creative. Trust me, boss. Sometimes the best revenge is perfectly legal. The next morning, Marcus woke up to find his BMW decorated with washable paint. Someone had written Homewrecker across the windshield and filled the interior with garbage. Nothing damaging, just humiliating. Empty fast food containers, old newspapers, and a sign that read Karma Delivery Service. Marcus called the police, but there was nothing they could do. No permanent damage, no way to prove who did it, just public humiliation. His social media went quiet after that, but Elise was getting desperate. Her parents had cut her off financially after learning about the affair and assault. Her job at the insurance company had put her on unpaid leave pending the criminal charges. She was staying in a cheap motel and running out of options. That's when she made her biggest mistake. She called my boss, trying to convince him I was unstable and dangerous. She told him I'd been threatening her and Marcus, that she was afraid for her safety. My boss, Mike Patterson, had known me for 15 years. He called me immediately. Jack, your wife just tried to get you fired. Told me some story about you making threats. I told her if she calls here again, I'm getting a restraining order. Thanks, Mike. She's getting desperate. You need anything? Time off for court? Character witness? I might take you up on that witness thing. You got it. Anyone who knows you knows you're not violent. She's grasping at straws. That night, I sat in my workshop behind the house, planning my next moves. Elise thought she could destroy my reputation to save herself. Marcus thought his money and connections made him untouchable. They were both about to learn how wrong they were. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. It was time to bring in the big guns. The annual Harvest Festival was the biggest social event of the year in our town. Everyone attended. Families, business owners, local politicians. It was the perfect stage for what I had planned. I'd spent the week leading up to the festival, making sure everyone knew the real story. Not just the bare facts, but the details that made people angry. How Elise had used our children as alibis for her affairs. How she'd brought Marcus to our house, into our bed. How she'd attacked him not out of remorse, but because she was losing her toy. Tommy and I arrived early to set up our booth for Mallory Construction. We'd been sponsors for 3 years running, and people expected to see us there. What they didn't expect was the display I'd prepared. "You sure about this, boss?" Tommy asked as we hung the banner. "I'm sure. It's time everyone knew who they're really dealing with." The banner read, "Mallory Construction, building trust for 15 years. Below it, we'd set up a photo display showing our work around town, the community center renovation, the new playground equipment, the church repairs we'd donated. But the centerpiece was a poster titled, "What We Stand For." It listed our company values: honesty, integrity, family, community, trust. At the bottom, in smaller text, it read, "Some things can't be rebuilt once they're broken." Everyone who saw it understood the message. By noon, the festival was in full swing. Families wandered between booths. Kids played games, and the beer tent was doing steady business. That's where I found Marcus, trying to blend in with the crowd. He was talking to Jennifer Walsh, a local real estate agent, probably trying to rebuild his professional network. When he saw me approaching, his face went white. "Marcus, good to see you here supporting the community," I said loudly enough for nearby people to hear. "Jennifer, you know Marcus, right? He's the one who's been all over social media lately." Jennifer looked confused. "I'm sorry, I don't follow." "Oh, Marcus had quite an adventure last week. Got assaulted by a married woman when he tried to break up with her. Made quite a scene on Pine Street. Isn't that right, Marcus?" Marcus mumbled something and tried to walk away, but I wasn't done. "The thing is, Jennifer, Marcus here knew the woman was married, knew she had kids, but he pursued the relationship anyway." I turned to address the growing crowd around us. "Some people think marriage vows are just suggestions." "Jack, stop," Marcus said quietly. "Why? You didn't stop when my wife was lying to me every Tuesday night. You didn't stop when she was using my children as cover stories. You didn't stop when she brought you into my house." The crowd was larger now. People were staring, whispering. Someone was recording with their phone. "You want to know what kind of man Marcus Hunt is?" I continued. "He's the kind who helps destroy families and then plays the victim when there are consequences." Marcus pushed through the crowd and fled. I watched him go, then turned to find Elise standing 20 feet away, her face a mask of rage and humiliation. She'd made the mistake of coming to the festival. "Having fun, Elise?" I called out. "Enjoying the community support?" She marched over, her fists clenched. "You're destroying my life." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just telling the truth. You destroyed your own life when you decided to cheat on your husband and assault your boyfriend." "I made a mistake." "You made hundreds of mistakes. Every lie you told, every Tuesday night you snuck around, every time you looked our children in the eye and lied about where you'd been." The crowd around us had grown to include most of the festival. People were filming, taking pictures. This would be all over social media within hours. "You're humiliating me in front of the whole town," Elise said, tears streaming down her face. "You humiliated yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." And that's when Chelsea appeared, trying to defend her friend. "Jack, you need to stop this. Elise is going through a hard time." "Chelsea, perfect timing." I turned to address the crowd again. "Everyone, this is Chelsea Morrison. She's the one who helped Elise cheat by providing fake alibis. When I called looking for my wife, Chelsea lied to my face to cover up the affair." And Chelsea's face went crimson. I didn't. You told me Elise was at your house discussing books. You looked me in the eye and lied to protect an affair. You helped destroy my children's home." Both women were crying now, but I felt no sympathy. They'd made their choices. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the crowd, "this is what betrayal looks like. This is what happens when people think actions don't have consequences." Elise and Chelsea fled together, leaving me standing in the center of a crowd that was buzzing with shock and excitement. By evening, the videos would have thousands of views. Everyone in town would know exactly what had happened and who was responsible. But the festival confrontation was just the beginning. The real reckoning was still to come. That night, I got a call from my lawyer. "Jack, we need to talk. I've got some interesting news about your wife's plans." The divorce hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday. I'd spent the week preparing with my lawyer, gathering evidence, and lining up witnesses. What I didn't expect was the bombshell that would drop 3 days before court. Lydia called me at 6 in the morning. "Jack, you need to get down here right now. I found something you need to see." I met her at the law office, where she had her laptop open and a stack of printed documents spread across the conference table. "Remember how Mrs. Fenn said she overheard Elise talking about making you look bad in court?" Lydia asked. "Yeah, something about bruises and pictures. Well, I did some digging. Elise has been sloppy with her digital security." Lydia turned the laptop screen toward me. "She uploaded photos to a cloud account that she shared with you 2 years ago for family pictures. She forgot to remove your access." On the screen were photos that made my blood boil. Pictures of Elise with what appeared to be bruises on her arms and face. But something was off about them. "These look fake," I said. "That's because they are. Look at this." Lydia clicked to another folder. She kept the original photos and the edited versions. The metadata shows she used photo editing software to add the bruises. I stared at the evidence of my wife's attempt to frame me for domestic violence. "Can we use this in court?" "Absolutely. This is fraud, Jack. She was planning to claim you abused her to gain sympathy and custody of the kids. But we can prove she fabricated everything." The next revelation came from an unexpected source. Marcus Hunt called me directly. "Jack, we need to talk. Elise is trying to drag me into her lies about you being violent." "What do you mean?" "She wants me to testify that you threatened me, that you're dangerous. She's promising to drop the assault charges if I help her in court." I almost laughed. "And you're calling me because I'm not going to commit perjury for her." "She's crazy, Jack. The assault wasn't a one-time thing. She's been getting more unstable for weeks. I tried to break up with her because she was talking about leaving you and taking the kids. She had this whole fantasy about us being together. So you'll testify truthfully in court?" "Yes, I'll tell them exactly what happened, how she pursued me, how she lied about your marriage being over, and how she attacked me when I tried to end things." Thursday morning arrived with the first snow of the season. I sat in the courthouse waiting room with my lawyer, watching Elise and her attorney through the glass doors. She looked terrible, thin, pale, desperate. When court convened, the first surprise was that Elise had decided to represent herself. Her lawyer had apparently withdrawn from the case, probably when he realized she was planning to commit fraud. Judge Morrison, no relation to Chelsea, was a stern woman in her 60s who had a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. She reviewed the case file before calling the first witness. The court calls Marcus Hunt. Marcus took the stand looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Under oath, he told the truth about everything. How Elise had pursued him at a real estate conference. How she'd lied about being separated. How she'd become increasingly possessive and unstable. "Did Mrs. Mallory ever discuss her plans regarding her marriage and children?" my lawyer asked. "Yes, she talked about leaving her husband and taking the kids. She wanted us to move in together. When I told her I wasn't interested in that kind of relationship, she became angry and violent." "Can you describe the assault?" Marcus detailed how Elise had thrown a lamp at him when he tried to break up with her. How she'd screamed about ruining her life. How she'd had to be physically restrained by neighbors who heard the commotion. When Elise tried to cross-examine him, she only made things worse. "You led me on," she shouted. "You made me think we had a future." "Ma'am," Judge Morrison interrupted, "please control yourself." But Elise was spiraling. "He promised me things. He said he loved me." Marcus looked at her with disgust. "I never promised you anything. I told you from the beginning it was just casual." And the second bombshell came when my lawyer presented the fabricated photos. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit evidence that Mrs. Mallory attempted to create false evidence of domestic abuse." The judge examined the original and edited photos, along with the metadata showing when and how they'd been altered. "Mrs. Mallory, did you create these images?" Elise's face was bright red. I was scared. I thought Jack might hurt me." "So you fabricated evidence of abuse that never occurred?" "I was protecting myself by committing fraud." The hearing went downhill from there. Character witnesses testified on my behalf. My boss, Tommy, neighbors, even Mrs. Fenn. They painted a picture of a devoted father, an honest businessman, who'd been betrayed by his wife. Elise had no witnesses. Her friends had abandoned her after the festival incident. Her parents refused to testify on her behalf. She sat alone at her table, crying and defeated. When Judge Morrison delivered her ruling, it was everything I'd hoped for, and more. Based on the evidence presented, including Mrs. Mallory's admitted adultery, her assault conviction, and her attempt to fabricate evidence of domestic abuse, I hereby grant Mr. Mallory's petition for divorce. She awarded me full custody of the children, with Elise getting supervised visitation only. I got the house, the business, and most of our assets. Elise would receive no alimony and would be responsible for her own legal fees. But the judge wasn't finished. Mrs. Mallory, your attempt to present fraudulent evidence in this court is deeply troubling. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges. As we left the courthouse, Elise grabbed my arm. Jack, please, you can't let them charge me with fraud. I'll go to jail. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. This woman who'd shared my bed for 12 years, who'd given birth to my children, who'd destroyed everything we'd built together. You should have thought about that before you tried to frame me, I said simply. Outside, Marcus was waiting by his car. He approached me hesitantly. Jack, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I should have verified her story about being separated. You're right, I said. It doesn't fix anything. He nodded and walked away. I never saw him again. 6 months later, I was rebuilding my life piece by piece. The kids were adjusting well to the new normal. Emma had stopped asking when Mommy was coming home, and Dylan was doing better in school now that the tension was gone from the house. Elise had been charged with fraud and given 2 years probation. She'd moved to a studio apartment across town and was working at a grocery store, the only job she could get with her criminal record. Her supervised visits with the kids were awkward and painful for everyone involved. Marcus had left town entirely, relocating his real estate business to another state. The scandal had destroyed his local reputation, and he'd lost several major clients. Chelsea had been fired from the Rusty Anchor after the festival incident. Apparently, helping married women cheat wasn't the kind of character reference bar owners were looking for in their employees. But the real satisfaction came from smaller victories. Mrs. Fenn had become something of a local hero for her role in exposing Elise's fraud. The neighborhood had rallied around me and the kids, bringing casseroles and offering babysitting services. My business was thriving. The community support had led to several major contracts, and I'd had to hire 2 additional crews to keep up with demand. Apparently, being the wronged husband in the town's biggest scandal was good for business. One evening in late spring, I was in my workshop when Dylan came running in. Dad, there's a lady at the door asking for you. I found Elise standing on my porch, looking nervous and desperate. It was the first time she'd come to the house since the divorce. What do you want, Elise? I wanted to talk about the kids, about maybe increasing my visitation time. Talk to your probation officer, and my lawyer. Jack, please, I know I made mistakes, but I'm trying to change. I'm in therapy now. I want to be a better mother. I studied her face, looking for any sign of the woman I'd once loved. She was thinner now, older looking, worn down by the consequences of her choices. You didn't make mistakes, Elise. You made deliberate choices. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to try to frame me for abuse. You chose to put our children through hell. I know, but there is no but. You destroyed our family. You destroyed your relationship with our children. You destroyed your own life. And you did it all for a man who didn't even want you. She started crying, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. The kids are happy now, I continued. They're stable, they're doing well in school, they have a routine they can count on. I'm not going to disrupt that because you've decided you want to play mother again. They're my children too. Then you should have thought about that before you chose Marcus Hunt over them. She stood there crying for another minute before finally walking away. I watched her drive off in her beat-up Honda, a far cry from the BMW she used to drive. That night, I sat on my back porch with a beer, looking out at the yard where Emma and Dylan had been playing earlier. The swing set I'd built them 3 years ago. The sandbox where they'd spent countless summer afternoons. The life we'd built together before Elise decided to tear it all down. My phone buzzed with a text from Tommy. Boss, we got the Henderson contract. Biggest job we've ever landed. Celebration drinks tomorrow? I smiled and typed back. Absolutely, we've earned it. Another text came in, this one from Lydia. Heard through the grapevine that Marcus is getting divorced. Apparently his wife found out about the affair, Karma's a bitch. I laughed out loud. Marcus had fled to another state only to have his past catch up with him anyway. His wife had probably done some digging after hearing about the scandal and discovered the truth about her husband's character. The last text was from Mrs. Fenn. Saw Elise at your house earlier. Everything okay? Everything's fine, I typed back. Just taking out the trash. As I sat there in the gathering darkness, I thought about the conversation I'd had with my lawyer earlier that week. Elise's probation would be up in 18 months. There was a chance she might try to petition for increased custody then. But I wasn't worried. I had the evidence. I had the community support. I had the truth on my side. More importantly, I had my children. Emma was thriving in her art classes. Dylan had made the travel baseball team. They were happy, healthy kids who deserved better than a mother who'd chosen her own selfish desires over their well-being. I finished my beer and went inside to check on them. Emma was reading in her room, and Dylan was building something with Legos. Normal kid activities in a stable home. Dad? Emma looked up from her book. Are you happy? Where one bumpty? It was a simple question, but it made me think. Was I happy? I'd lost the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. I'd been betrayed by someone I trusted completely. I'd had to rebuild everything from scratch. But looking at my daughter's face, at the peace in my home, at the life I'd created for us after everything fell apart, I realized the answer was yes. Yes, sweetheart, I'm happy. Good, she said, and went back to her book. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching my children in their safe, stable home. Elise had tried to destroy everything we'd built together. She'd tried to frame me, ruin my reputation, and take my children away. Instead, she'd lost everything. Her marriage, her children, her home, her career, her reputation, her freedom. She'd traded 12 years of marriage and a loving family for a few months with a man who'd never wanted anything serious with her, and I'd won. Not through violence or illegal schemes, but through truth, patience, and the support of a community that valued honesty and family. As I turned off the lights and headed to bed, I thought about Marcus Hunt, probably lying awake in some distant city, dealing with his own divorce and the wreckage of his reputation. I thought about Chelsea, struggling to find work with her tarnished character. I thought about Elise, alone in her studio apartment, facing the consequences of her choices every single day, and they'd all learned the same lesson. Actions have consequences. Betrayal has a price. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people face the natural results of their own decisions. Well, they told Elise something much worse than assault charges, when I'd threatened to sue Marcus for everything he owned. But in